States will join them in sanctioning President Putin and Foreign Minister Lavrov and members of the Russian National Security Team. I expect we'll have more specific details out later this afternoon.
Thanks. Additionally, could you detail the level of support the United States government is currently providing operationally to the Ukrainian military and intelligence services as they try to fend off the Russian invasion? Is the U.S. continuing to send weaponry into Ukraine? Is it providing intelligence on Russian movements and tactical communications and the like?
Well, without getting into too many specific details that are sensitive for a range of reasons, we are continuing to deliver on the security assistance package that was announced earlier last fall. All of that has not been delivered yet. We're continuing to provide that assistance. Obviously, we remain in very close touch, of course, with President Zelensky. I think you may have just seen the readout that we just put out that included the president spoke with him earlier today again, and we are in very close touch from our national security team with members of his team as well, and we continue to consider a range of options to provide additional assistance.
And President Zelensky last night said he was target number one of the Russian military. Does the United States have a warning to Russia in the event that they were to target the Ukrainian president or attempt to capture him or to physically harm him?
Do we have a warning to them?
Yes,
well,
specifically regarding a head of state.
Well, let me first say that we have been warning for months for weeks, if not months, that Kyiv falling, that attempts to overturn the leadership of Ukraine is very much in the aspirations of President Putin. So their attempts to do exactly that and their continued progress in moving toward Kyiv and moving toward Ukrainian leadership is aligned with what we have predicted. Obviously, going after the head of state would be a significant, horrific act by Russian leadership, but we remain in contact, as you all have seen from the readout we provided with President Zelensky. He's made clear that he's still in Ukraine, proudly and courageously standing up in the face of the Russian attack, and we are certainly continue to be concerned about the ongoing Russian assault on the country.
Topic, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention right now is announcing new federal mask guidelines that, including under them, 70% or so of Americans right now live in areas where they are no longer recommended to wear masks indoors in public settings. Is that guidance that will be followed here in the White House, as Washington, D.C. is now not an area recommended anymore for wearing masks indoors?
Sure. Well, we are evaluating our protocols. Obviously, this guidance is just going out now as we speak. I believe Dr. Walensky continues to provide a briefing call with some of your colleagues right now. D.C. currently has a mask mandate until March 1st. We have always followed the most stringent guidelines. That has typically been the CDC, so we will plan to follow that. And in the meantime, we are evaluating our protocols here at the White House. Go ahead.
On President Zelensky, in President Biden's phone call with him, did it come up whether President Biden bring up whether President Zelensky he thinks he should leave the country or not?
That is not. I don't have any additional details to provide. President Zelensky continues to serve as president of Ukraine. He continues to do that courageously in the face of attacks from Russian military. This was a call for the president to reiterate our strong support for him, for the Ukrainian people, and to reiterate and condemn the actions of the Russians.
And on sanctioning Putin and Lavrov, yesterday President Biden had said that was on the table. What changed between yesterday and today?
Well, it has been under consideration and on the table for some time, as you know, and as I just conveyed, the president's strong view and strong principle from the beginning of this conflict, and even before, I should say, has been to take actions and steps in alignment with our European partners, and this is certainly evidence of that.
And just finally on that one, what does sanctioning Putin himself do in the opinion of this administration? A lot of analysts have said that this is more of a symbolic move than anything.
Well, without getting into any specific details, I know you're not exactly asking me this, but sort of about financial assets, et cetera. I will leave that to others to speak to. Certainly the united, the step that we are doing in alignment and in coordination with the Europeans, just sends a clear message about the strength of the opposition to the actions by President Putin and the direction in his leadership of the Russian military. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, continuing the questions on sanctions.
Yep.
Today we saw that the Italian government and the German government both said very clearly that they would not veto a move to remove Russia from the SWIFT transaction system. Can you say a word about how quickly you think something like that would happen, and whether you believe that that would be another productive tool and perhaps another moment, symbolic or rather an important measure?
Sure. Well, again, the president's principle is taking steps in alignment. We are stronger together, especially as we stand in the face of the Russian military's actions and their invasion of Ukraine. As it relates to SWIFT, we've never taken that off the table, of course, and I'm certainly not taking it off the table today, so certainly there'll be ongoing discussions about that. As you know, SWIFT is a messaging service that connects 11,000 banks, and many would argue that there are ways that the Russian leadership could get around that over the course of time, but it certainly remains an option on the table. In terms of the timeline, I don't have anything to predict for you on that.
We were also reported today that China has actually increased its reserves as opposed to releasing reserves, which could help perhaps with the energy price increases that we're seeing. Have you had, what do you think of that move? And then also, has there been any further communication? Does President Biden intend to talk to President Xi, or can you say a word about what you're doing in terms of trying to convince the Chinese to be supportive?
Well, I would note that also today the IEA had an informal meeting where they discussed options they could take over the coming days and weeks to help address any volatility in the global markets and the heightening of price volatility. And certainly that meeting today was a chance to consult and continue coordination with partners on global energy supply and security. There's also continuing conversations that we have had from here with partners over the past day. Secretary Granholm spoke with French, German, EU, and UK counterparts yesterday, and we'll continue those conversations. As it relates to China, I would say that the president's view, of course, is that now is the time for leaders of the world to not just speak out clearly against President Putin's flagrant aggression and to stand with the people of Ukraine, but this is not a moment for equivocation or hiding or waiting to see what happens next. It is already clear what's happening, and as a part of that, it's also important to be a part of the effort to mitigate and minimize the impact on global markets and global oil markets. And so I don't have any additional conversations to read out for you, but I would say certainly we all want to be part of the solution here and stand up in the face of aggression to help address the problems.
Are you saying that China is, in fact, equivocating?
All I'm saying is that every country should think about what side of history they want to be on here, and they have the ability to do that. Go ahead.
When did President Biden make the final decision to sanction President Putin?
It was made, it's been on the table for some time, but through coordination and discussion with our European partners over the last day or so.
So he decided in the last 24 hours that he was going to do that?
Again, it's been on the table for some time. His priority and his focus has been on taking steps in coordination, and obviously that decision was made over the course of the last 24 hours and in partnership with our European counterparts.
Does it include a travel ban by chance?
I believe that would be a part of the U.S. Component, yes.
So President Putin would be banned from traveling here?
There's more details of it that, again, will be out later today. There are very limited examples of this being done, as you all know, but that is a standard part. But again, there'll be more details we will have available later today.
Another question on travel. The UK is banning civilian Russian aircraft from its airspace, saying that no aircraft on a service owned, operated, or chartered by a person connected with Russia shall fly in their airspace. Is the United States planning to do the same?
I'm not aware of that being in the plans, but I don't have anything to preview for you.
Okay, and another question. We've seen these predictions from the Defense Department, from the State Department, about Kyiv falling to Russia. They've made clear that they believe that is in Putin's sights and that he wants to overthrow the government there. If that happens, what does the U.S. do? What is the response and the role that the United States takes after something like that happens?
Well, I would just reiterate, as we've been warning for months, that Kyiv falling is a real possibility, and we've continued to see Russia's progression. Even as we've seen resistance on the ground, Russia's military continues to advance toward Kyiv. So there is that real possibility. I'm just not going to get into, at this point, hypotheticals of what that will look like or what our response would be.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. I just want to follow up on the Putin sanctions again.
Sure.
Based on what you've said so far. So was this decision to coordinate with allies meant to show unity, meant to show that Putin is a pariah, or do you think it will actually have an impact on Putin in practice, given the uncertainty about the extent and location of his wealth?
Sure, I understand what you're asking. I'm just not going to get into specifics about